Here we go. There, wait, let me turn the countdown off. There. Look who we have here today. Let me see. That's over that way. So, nope, this way.
Hello.
Tony Gallardo, all the way from what city in Texas are you, Tony?
In San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio.
Yes,
and
sir.
I bet it's hot.
Oh my gosh, it's super hot. It's hot in the day and it's hot in the night. It's
It's
hot
hot at
all the
night as
time.
well?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We take my dog out for a walk in the evenings, 9 p.m. and it's hot. It's just, yeah, hot all the time.
So
Texas is
first,
big,
let's do
Texas is
catch up.
hot.
Let's see what's going on with your video production company. So tell everybody what you do in Texas. You have a video production company. It's called Tamiga.
Yes, yeah, we have a little cool little shop here called Tomiga, and we mostly do advertisement style type of production. So commercials, short form videos, little mini promo docs, promomentaries. So anything that has to do with like just advertising for your company or business or brands. That's pretty much what we do.
And how's
Production and
business?
post.
How's business?
It's been good. Like everything, it kind of goes up and down. There's kind of like these seasons that happen, but thankfully we've been busy throughout the whole year. It was very busy at the beginning of the year, and then towards the summer it got pretty crazy, and now it's slowing down. But like anything, we're constantly pitching and bidding on things. So a couple of those bids have actually been mostly greenlit. So it looks like we're about to get crazy busy again in the next
Well,
2
that's
weeks.
fantastic. So that whole thing of starving and feast and famine when you're independent like that,
Yeah, it's a truth. It's interesting when you're freelance versus when you kind of have like a couple employees. Um, uh, but it's essentially the same thing. So it's like I have to constantly be figuring out how to plan to hopefully, get bidding on something in the future and trying to figure out, okay, what do we do in the next 6 months? What are we hopefully doing the next year? That type of thing. But it's fun. I like it. I like it a lot.
now, how many hours a week do you spend total between editing and filming and looking for new work and sending bills out? It's more than 40 hours probably, right?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. It seems like it never stops. Actually, my wife will say it seems like it never stops. Um, but yeah, it's thankfully I've got a really good team to help kind of disperse some of the responsibilities. So I've got my executive producer. His name is Julian, and he just does an amazing job of taking that stuff off my plate. So all of that type of management and prepping for jobs,
Yes.
he can handle. So that does help tremendously. And we have two editors here as well, so that kind of helps burden the load. So I'm starting to become more of like a creative director, or just overseeing the creative jobs. Um, but yeah, it never stops. I'm constantly thinking about the business in some fashion, some form or fashion.
Right. I imagine you dream about it at night.
Yeah, there's so many aspects to it. There's obviously the creative side, which is I love and I'm excited about, and there's so many ways to be creative, whether you're on production or it's just post production. But there's all the client relation side, right? There's
Oh,
the management
absolutely.
of
Sure.
projects. There's the billing, so that all of those end up taking a bigger slice than what you would think would take. But it's very important. Like just managing relationships with clients is a really big.
Oh,
It's a big
absolutely.
thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you have so much on your plate, just running the business, making sure things run smoothly, like you said, client relationships. How much
hmm
attention do you pay to the current state of like post and NLEs and stuff?
Not as much as I used to be able to, but I'm constantly trying to stay on top as best as possible. Um, yeah, I try to stay up to date with, but it's usually going to be with either Blackmagic or Apple.
Right.
Those are the two big ones.
So
I
you
mean, there's
have,
Adobe, but
do you have two different
uh,
edit suites, two different, I mean, do you have both Resolve and Final Cut in your studio?
well, I would say that we are now pretty much mostly resolved. Um,
Okay.
I think, I think the last time we talked, it's been a little while, and we were kind of split, like almost 50-50 or maybe 60-40, Blackmagic, Resolve and Final Cut. But
Right.
I think now, especially this year, we have pretty much just been Resolve the
Now let's
whole the
talk
whole
about
way.
that. Why? I mean,
Uh,
listen, I know some of the reasons why.
is anybody watching this? No,
I hear, let me just turn this way. I hear all the time from people, you know,
Mhm.
Final Cut Pro, Resolve, and I would not, if I was recommending somebody starting out, I would recommend try the free version of Resolve.
Mhm.
It's free. Try the 90-day trial of Final Cut.
Yeah.
If
I mean, really, you should. There's two different sides. There's the art of the edit, and,
Sure,
and the theory behind, especially depending if you're just doing music videos or if you're doing commercials. Each of those silos kind of has their um, their own vernacular and way of doing things. So there's the art of the edit and there's the technical side to learn. And I would say, especially anybody starting off, is you should pick one, but learn the others. They're pretty much very similar, especially if you're a freelancer. Know how to use Adobe Premiere, know how to use Final Cut 10, or at least be versed in it, and that way you never know where your next job may come from. So at least have an understanding of each of those NLEs is probably the way to go.
I agree
I
100%. Now, would you add Avid into that mix for people?
you know I, I'm not sure. I would say depends on what market you're in, and that could be your local market or it could be a market outside your state. It just depends. When I went freelance, like in 20, I learned on Media Composer, and my first real post edit job as an editor was in Media Composer. And then, of course, we all went to FCP Classic and did that for a long time, and then Final Cut 10 and so forth. Um, but it's very fluid now. If you're gonna like, I went so in 2015, I went freelance. I went to work at a pretty big corporate insurance company, and they had full edit base, 40 edit base suites and studios, and they were all Media Composer. So
Is
I
that
literally
right?
just downloaded the free, not the free trial, but I did like a month subscription to Avid Media Composer, and then just spent a week cracking open. I think I watched Kevin P. McCullough tutorials, and just kind of familiarize myself with it. And it's all the same essentially. It's just muscle memory. And okay, this key is over here, and this keystroke's over here. They pretty much do the same thing. So yeah, I did have to jump in there. And every once in a while, we'll get a job still where maybe we're being transferred over to our company, and they're on Media Composer. So I've taken timelines from Media Composer, put it into Resolve, and then transfer that over to Final Cut 10, so we can edit in Final Cut 10 or edit in Resolve. So at the very, very least, have an understanding of it, because you never know. You might just be handed a project, and
Sure.
it doesn't mean that you're cutting in it, but you at least have to be able to open it. How do I move media in and out? How do I export an XML or EDL or something like that? So it'll be good to at least be versed. There's so many tutorials. There's a plethora of amazing
Yes.
folks out there with tutorials too.
How do you move from Media Composer to Resolve? Is that just some kind of an XML file?
Yes, it was. I believe I did, and I forget which one it was. It was a while when I did it. I think I also did an EDL and just pretty much brought the cuts over.
Okay.
Um, and so I'm not saving any of the titles or any of uh, the edit was actually just a radio edit. So there's like two or
Okay.
three timelines that had some pretty decent radio edits. They weren't final. So it was more about that A roll and the B roll, just getting those
Yeah.
cuts over. And then we did
No,
the polish.
I really like Resolve. I use three
Yeah.
NLEs. I do. I like Final Cut Pro because I've been dealing with it for 20 some years. I like DaVinci Resolve, and I really like LumaFusion. I've really gotten into LumaFusion since NAB.
Yeah.
It is the coolest NLE. It really, really is. A lot of innovation in that NLE.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm doing right now, I'm doing a multicam.
Okay.
When you bring your clips in, it automatically assigns a different color to each clip. Automatically.
Oh,
Automatically.
that's nice.
You don't have to do it,
Yeah.
go into roles and change colors. Automatically, each of your 6 clips are color-coded.
Oh, that's really nice.
It's really nice. There's a lot of really nice things with it. And I'm just amazed at some of the things that they can do on an iPad or an iPhone.
I know. I'm very I'm curious. I mean, as far as staying up to date, like what's happening on the iPad, I'm LumaFusion is one that I would love to look at and figure out. But they seem to be adding so many features all the time to that app.
But
Seems like
the
it's pretty
thing is, they
powerful.
add features, but it's very intuitive. It's not like
Okay.
cluttered. I
Good.
mean, Tony, when I went to NAB,
That's
you
good.
were at NAB, I was editing,
Yeah.
shooting on my phone, editing with LumaFusion on my phone, and uploading from the
That's
phone.
pretty wild. That's pretty
Yeah,
wild.
it is really wild. And I'm thinking, how can I edit on a phone? You can. There's no missing features between the iPad and the phone with LumaFusion.
Oh, really?
No missing
Wow.
features. You just have to know some of the things change. For example, I
Okay.
can edit this, in vertical or horizontal,
Okay.
regardless
The
of what
UI
the video
changes.
is. Everything changes. Everything just switches
Nice.
over. So this way, if I want a longer timeline, and this way,
can
if I want a
see.
bigger viewer, the viewer's bigger in the vertical mode. Now that's
Interesting. I
something
gotta check it
that,
out.
something the Final Cut for iPad doesn't do. It doesn't work on the phone.
I'm pretty excited about Final Cut on the iPad. I have not tried it out, but it seems I've seen it. It seems really intuitive. Seems like they took their time.
Yeah, if since you're coming from Final Cut, obviously there's a lot of familiarity to both of us. But
Yeah.
when they first announced that, or they were talking about it, I said, look, if Final Cut ever comes to iPad, there's no way it can be the same app as what's on the Mac, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
now that it's out, I've got a list of 40 things that it's missing from the Mac. It isn't a couple of things, 40.
You got the Richard
things.
list already growing.
Well, I'm interested in things like that. I'm interested in
Yeah.
feature parity because the people are saying, no, it'll be feature parity because it's the same chip. I said, it just can't. It can't be.
Well, I
So
mean,
there's-
just the user interface in itself, you operate it differently. In essence, you might even think about it differently just because where you're sitting and how you're using it and the
Sure.
comfortability of holding one hand and all that stuff that changes versus a laptop and mouse, keyboard and
Well,
mouse.
the one thing I really like a lot with Final Cut for iPad, we affectionately call it Final Cut Junior. Okay.
Okay.
Because it's not up to where Final Cut on the Mac is.
Yeah.
But I really like they brought a pro camera feature in.
Did they?
Well, here's what's interesting. I'm not going to film with my iPad.
Right.
I'm not. It just looks goofy, and it's just I just use my phone or my Panasonic. But in Final Cut for iPad, if you use that camera, they have pro features, white balance controls, and some other manual things.
Okay. Nice.
But the phones have the ability to do that because I have third-party apps that have been doing that for years on
Right.
the phone. So
Right.
it's not hardware.
Yes.
It's not hardware. It's something they just brought it into
their
the Final Cut
implementation.
app. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
you would think.
Apple being Apple. It's Apple being Apple. It's Apple having this mouse for 10 years, 12 years now, whatever the heck it's been.
That's the worst mouse.
It's the
design
worst
ever.
mouse. And then the other thing, Tony, is the lightning port. Come on. It's USB 2 speeds for a dozen years.
We did a job last year where it was all shot, a commercial campaign, all shot on the concept. It was the concept was for iPhones, as a user generated
Right.
campaign, and we had 3 iPhone 13 Pros with like 500 or terabyte size in there, and it was fun. It was great. It's a whole different. It's like editing on the iPad versus on the computer. It's a whole different dynamic because you can hold the phones in different ways and shoot in different ways. But getting the footage, all ProRes, we shot ProRes. Getting the footage off of those phones was a nightmare.
It's torture.
It really was.
It's really torture.
Yeah. I basically just had to use image capture and just do it in chunks and just wait over time. So 3 years later, we did it.
If you ever do that again, I have an app called iMazing that I use.
Okay.
It gives you more features. It seems to be more stable. I mean, I've tried Direct Connect. I never use Final Cut Pro import window with my phone. It's just the weirdest things happen.
Yeah, no. We did it first to the Finder level to copy it, and then kind of did a little processing, and then put it into Resolve.
So we have a comment. You couldn't use AirDrop for that. I've tried AirDrop.
Oh no!
AirDrop is unreliable. It's the phone is the problem, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's that connection point. They just need to give us faster speeds.
Right.
On that, it's impossible, especially because we were shooting 4K ProRes, and that just eats up space and huge files, right? Long takes with the talent and moving around. It just takes up. Yeah, AirDrop would just crash.
Same with me. Any kind of large, if I do 10 or 12 clips, I'll come back in 10 minutes and it's crashed and I have to start over again. So I use iMazing, and I drag everything to the Finder, to a dedicated folder, master folder, label it what I want, and then I'll just drag and drop that into Final Cut.
Nice. I got to check that out. Thankfully, we haven't had another campaign like that come up, but if we do, I'll definitely give you a call, give you a quick tutorial.
Speaking of the iPhone, so next week is the Apple event, and everybody's, there's no surprise, the iPhone event.
That's next week? Or?
I think a week from tomorrow, a week from today.
It's on the 12th? Is it on the 12th?
Yeah, that sounds right. So today's the 6th, so 6 more days. So Tuesday. Finally, we're supposed to get a USB-C / Thunderbolt port on these phones. Finally.
That is the rumor. I don't know if it's that. Part of me is like, it's not going to happen, but I would love for that to happen.
They have to.
Yes, I would love for that to happen.
I'm just so sick and tired of this Lightning port. I mean, I get a good iPhone every year because I use this a lot. Now, I did just get a Panasonic Lumix S5 Mark II X, which is a fantastic full-frame camera. Good in low light, has great autofocus, and I got some lenses for it. And I use that anytime there's any kind of a low light situation or possible.
And can you do you have the ability to transfer your video files to your phone? Like, can it send any of the files directly to your phone, or do you have to put it to the computer?
No, I don't edit those files on my phone. I always edit those on Final Cut on my laptop.
Okay.
But when I'm filming with the phone, the tendency is to, especially if I'm doing live stuff and at different events, to edit on the phone. If I film on the phone, edit on the phone. And LumaFusion.
On the phone.
Okay, Final Cut doesn't work on the phone.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't work on the phone.
LumaFusion's got a lot of features. And doesn't LumaFusion have like a hybrid track system where it kind of has tracks, but it operates like...
It has, well, let me think what they call it. They call it an enhanced magnetic timeline. It's a magnetic timeline, but you can also lock it.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's a magnetic timeline, and you have clips above and below that are linked to the magnetic timeline, but you can lock them in place if you want to.
Yeah, I want to explore that. That looks really cool.
Yeah,
that's the one thing I hate in Resolve is tracks. Oh, still hate tracks.
I don't mind tracks for audio.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm okay with it, but it's just the track management is still, it's such a pain.
No, it is. No, it absolutely is. Here's the thing with magnetic timeline. It's really spoiled us, those of us that have gotten used to it. Those of us that...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we love it. Some people can understand it, but
it's a simple, it's deceptively simple. It's
Yes.
very deceptively simple. You think a lot of people you show and they're like, oh, that doesn't really make a difference. But it's those moments when you're just thinking, you're creatively, your mind's just creatively firing off where you just want to try something quick, and that's when you start to realize like this is a game changer. You don't, you're not worrying about those other little things that have to take up your brain resources and take up your clicks. Then it becomes very fluid, and then you don't even realize it's like the interface just kind of gets out of the way for you, and that's pretty powerful. No other NLE has that.
So I've been thinking that Resolve is going to adopt the magnetic timeline or an option for it.
Well, I mean, essentially, the cut page is kind of a version of that.
Right.
But I mean, personally, I don't use a cut page because it gets messy. There's not enough things there's not enough features from the edit page and the cut page. So I usually end up going to every time I try the cut page, I end up going like, let me just do this in the edit page.
Sure.
I know that they're updating it and they're trying it out. I love the idea that they're using it as an experiment to find and create new like sync bins and that type of stuff. It's pretty interesting. I like what they're doing. Source overwrite, great idea. I wish they would take that and put that in the edit page. So I love that type of experimentation, tinkering, if you will. But yeah, they still need to work on that magnetic workflow in the cut page to make it really sing a little bit better. It's still a little clunky.
So we got a comment. Do you think Procreate is releasing an editor or animation tool in 2 days? They said it's going to change the game. I don't know.
I didn't know about this, but now I'm excited. There's a lot of things coming out next week. Sony just announced a new Cine Alta camera system called the Burano.
Oh, they did?
Nanlite. They did. It just came out. I think I just saw something today, actually, right before we got on here. So I'm pretty stoked about that. It looks like I don't know what it's going to be, but it could be something in between the Venice and FX9. That's next. That's on the 12th. Apple's got an event. There's Nanlite has an event for some new lights next week as well. So I didn't even know Procreate had something coming up.
I didn't either. I did not either. So yeah, the Apple event is next Tuesday, so 6 days. And I'll be getting an iPhone 15 Pro Max, unless if they don't have a USB-C port. I might just keep my 14, just my 14, because it's already bad enough. I wouldn't,
Yeah. I have the
but
13 Pro
everybody's
still.
saying no, they're going to have the USB-C, and it's supposed to be even the high-end one's going to be Thunderbolt speed, which would be fantastic.
Yes, please. They should have done that a long time ago.
A long time ago. It's I don't know why they do some of these things. But then, so sometimes Apple has a Mac event in October. And
Sometimes they do, yeah.
Off and on rumors whether or not they're going to release the M3 MacBook Pros in October this year. Back and forth.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Well, the thing that's interesting for me is not only the hardware. I have a original M1 Max MacBook Pro that I absolutely love. Absolutely love it. It's doing fantastic for me. It runs everything I need. It runs Final Cut, Logic, Ecamm Live, everything for me.
Nice.
But the reason I'm interested in if they have it in October is because typically Apple releases a full number of Final Cut Pro around one of two events, either the Mac event with new Macs or the Final Cut Pro Summit, which is in the beginning of November. Okay. So we've been on 10.6 for 2 years, which is the longer end of full number updates. So we're due for 10.7. I don't know what's in it.
I'm not holding my breath, to be honest with you. I'm not holding my breath.
Let me just say this. When the transition from 10.4 to 10.5, full number updates, took 3 years. And then when we got 10.5, it was just Apple Silicon native Mac. So 3 years to get this little teeny. And at that point, my expectations were reset for Final Cut. and they've been down here ever since then. They're down low. Now,
They are very low for me still.
I would love to be surprised and have my expectations exceeded. But I'm not putting my expectations up. They're down low.
It would be awesome if they could add features, but it just, I love how Apple does integrate features. They take time to really think, is this feature that we're adding, is it intuitive? How does it work with everything else? Are we cluttering up things too much? So I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that they're not just saying, well, 3 people asked for this feature, let's just bolt it on, because then that can just cause all sorts of other problems. So I love the fact that they are meticulous about how they add and when they add, but now it seems like they've just gone too far in that sense, and it feels like they're not adding anything, and they're not taking into account, like, the workflow changes, right? The COVID changed things, everything starts to adapt and evolve, and it doesn't feel like they're keeping up with that. And that's a pretty big reason why we Resolve it just gave us no choice but to use it, and especially for what we do. And they converted Resolve. They, meaning Blackmagic, converted Resolve to M1 pretty quick. Like they, once they got that SDK, they were like, okay, new update, here we go, which is pretty impressive.
Well, there's people that make excuses for Apple all the time for the Final Cut Pro team, and they did this back when there was a 3-year gap between 10.4 and 10.5. They kept saying, oh, they got to make the M1 version, they got to do machine learning 2. I said, so does everybody else. So does Blackmagic, so does Premiere, so does AVID. Everybody's got to do this stuff.
And
how
they're
come
actually late to the
Blackmagic can
game?
do it so fast, and Apple took so long?
Yeah, Blackmagic and Avid and Adobe, they're all late to the game because they have to wait till all that information, the SDKs, get released. Versus Apple, at least should have access to that from within. I love the guys, I love the team, I love for Final Cut. But yeah, it's just one of those things. If they update it and it's got great features, then maybe we can put it back into the swing of things here, so to say. But Resolve has just been knocking it out of the park for us.
So some people don't like the complexity of Resolve. I personally like the complexity of the Resolve. Logic is much more complex than Final Cut Pro, and I like that. I like that I can go into the nuts and bolts and do things.
You at some point you eventually need to. You have to when you're dealing with color pipelines, or you're dealing with VFX pipelines, or you start to departmentalize your workflow. You need to be meticulous. You need to get into the details and have options. That's a huge thing.
So how does DaVinci Resolve have all those apps that just go on tabs and it works so well? I don't know. How do they do that?
It's a great concept. I don't know how they do it, but it's when I'm talking to a lot of Premiere editors who use the Creative Cloud, I show them that concept first. It's like here you are, you're in your editor, and here you are in your visual effects software here, color correction and audio. And what's so great about it is that you can't change your panels around a lot like you can in Premiere. A lot of Premiere folks are like, well, I want to be able to move all my panels all sorts of different ways. But for the most part, Resolve operates in the same concept as like Final Cut. You've got your inspector, you got your bins, and then you've got your viewer and your timeline.
Right.
And by having that structure, it allows you to change the interface and be a little more fluid with those apps. So as you go into each app or page, each page, that workflow now changes, but you still have the familiarity of your timeline and your inspector. But now you're focused on audio, right? So now you've got these huge meters, and now you've got you can really scale your audio tracks and name them, move them around much easier and differently than you would in the edit page. Or it's time for color correction. So Why do we need, we don't need to have, we can shrink our timelines, so things kind of just evaporate and reappear as needed for the type of work. So it really does help you think in those modes as well. I just want to focus on editing. I just want to do my radio edit. I just want to focus on audio. So it kind of just stays structured the same, but morphs and lets you focus on those features. And so I like that a lot. I think that's a really great concept. You're not opening up multiple apps. You're just opening up one app.
That's what I'm asking. Resolve does it so well. Okay. They have two different timelines. They have the cut page, they have the edit page, they have the color page, they have the audio page, they have the fusion page.
Well, it's one timeline, and that's the beauty of it. Really, it's one timeline essentially, and there's no conform. I mean, for what we do, we have to, even in Final Cut or wherever our edits coming from, we ultimately have to go to Resolve to do color correction. And that was one of the biggest things that helped us kind of go in the direction of Resolve. Was it really cut out the conform time. So as budgets change and as deadlines change, they get smaller or bigger or tighter, having to conform starts to become an issue because you have to make sure you match exactly what was in that other NLE. So speed ramping, reframes, or we did a push in. All those things have to match. So essentially, you have to bring it into Resolve and verify that every frame is sunk up, the time code's exactly the same, and now what effects did we apply, what reframes did we do, and make sure that all is matched, and then do your color correction. So that provides time and hiccups to overcome. And on some jobs, and a lot of jobs that are medium size or smaller, it just eats up so much time. And then you start to, well, should we be coloring this in Resolve? Should we just color it in Final Cut? So there's that boundary of like, well, I can just do this so much easier in Resolve because it has the color tools I need right away. And so once we kind of started just editing in Resolve, our conform just kind of went away. And then the next thing for us was the cloud, the cloud projects. That has been really nice.
The collaboration in the
really
cloud,
helped
you mean?
us. The collaboration in their cloud, their project server in the cloud. It's been great. We like right now, I have a personal project that we're doing here at Tomiga, and I actually prepped the project, did all the metadata, for all the different files, made multicams, and then my editor is working from home, and he is cranking away, and I can just jump in, we can just talk on the phone together and look at the same timeline, discuss it. He doesn't have to export anything to the web. And I log out, and he goes away editing on it. I just did a job earlier in the year where we had like 12 or 14 different machines, color department, sound department, VFX, everything. And it sung pretty well. It handled itself I was impressed. I was really impressed. So, yeah.
So I guess the reason I was asking about how does Resolve do those different pages so effectively, can you imagine if we had Final Cut on a page, Motion on a page, Logic on a page, some kind of an advanced color thing on a page, and just going back and forth instead of launching each app? Because Resolve does it so well, I'm not sure how they do it, but if they can do it, I would think others could possibly do it.
The Motion engine is right there inside of Final Cut.
Right.
I've always thought, man, it'd be great if they could just figure out a way to pull in Motion into, or even give it some of its base structure, how it curves, right? Being able to have animation curves and manipulating keyframes in the timeline, just bring some of that stuff into Final Cut, and it would just make that so much more powerful.
Right.
Yeah, definitely Motion into Final Cut, game changer.
I get this question all the time. If we did not get a huge update by November, how will you feel about Final Cut Pro? I'm not going to abandon Final Cut Pro. I'm not going to abandon it because I've been doing it for 20 plus years. But the less that Final Cut Pro fulfills my needs, the more time I'm going to spend in DaVinci Resolve and LumaFusion. I don't have to get rid of one in order to work in the other.
Right.
I don't have to do that. Final Cut Pro I'm most comfortable with, and I still have faith in the Final Cut Pro team for sure. But my expectations they're low.
The team is great. Love the folks there. They're awesome. But
Yes.
will something come that advances Final Cut, or not even advance, but brings it up to where it should be? That's the question. I'm not sure about.
So we lost your video for some reason.
Lost my video.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oops.
I can hear you.
Hang on one second.
Sure. There we go. It's like your batteries wore down.
I think it's a cable.
Okay.
Gonna have to mark that cable and get rid of it.
Usually what I used to run a PA company. I had a band. We had a PA, and when the band wasn't playing, I'd rent the PA out. And as soon as we found a bad cable, it gets tied in a knot. So anybody who finds a cable tied in a knot, you know not to use it or fix it.
That's a great
Absolutely.
idea. We're going to knot this one up here after this.
So another question, didn't we have that with Final Cut Studio back in the day minus Logic? Kind of. I mean, the neat thing about Final Cut Pro 7 is you could put motion projects in the timeline. Do you remember that?
Right. Yeah.
You could right click on it, open in motion. It would take you to motion. You do your edit, save it, and it's saved in the Final Cut Pro timeline.
Yes.
That was fantastic.
That was really nice. And, like it's the same thing with Adobe and Dynamic Link. I've always been a little leery of that process. There's just so many potential links in the chain that can break or cause things to have to be re-rendered. So it depends on what type of workflow and how critical, time sensitive your deadlines are.
Sure.
That's really why I like Resolve, because it's all connected. You don't have to worry. It's all there in one. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It's very hard for those things to unlink from each other.
Yeah. So I think I know the answer to this, but you are not coming to the Creative Summit this year, correct? The Final Cut Pro Creative Summit?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I
want to.
Oh, do you
I
want
to? But I do. I think it'd be, for me, I want to catch up with everybody. There's going to be, just all the folks that and on Twitter that are great, who are super smart. So to me, that's the best, is being able
It absolutely is.
Get FaceTime with folks and catch up and just be inspired, right? Or just complain and know that you're not alone.
Well, that's true too.
I love that.
I mean, we get the Final Cut Pro team's ear at that event. We have. So this year, Tony, we have.
What do we have?
One full day at Apple Park. The Monday, the entire day is at Apple Spaceship campus. The entire day. Now, besides this is my imagination. Besides, obviously, we'll get a presentation from the Final Cut Pro team. We always have. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then my imagination says, okay, after they give us a presentation, then we get to go to the Final Cut Pro team work area and see how all the little nuts and bolts are going. I don't think that's real, but I mean, I'd love that. To actually meet the Final Cut Pro team, everybody, not just the people on stage, but just...
Right. The actual team. Yeah. I mean, that's worth its weight in gold.
It is.
That would be nice. So maybe I might. You might be convincing me just to. To go.
It's if you have a place to stay, obviously you got to get hotel and transportation, but it's only $299 this year. Okay.
I saw. That's nice. That's
So Monday, how else are you going to get into Spaceship Campus for a full day? So they're going to do something besides the presentation. And I'm hoping the presentation's in the Steve Jobs Theater, which it could be, because we're going to have probably 150, 200 people there or
nice,
more.
Man.
And then Monday and Tuesday, of course, are sessions from all the usual suspects. Tuesday night is Expo night, which is a really nice event. And then Wednesday night, closing out the summit, a Q&A with the Final Cut Pro team. A Q&A in person. They sit up front, and all of us, hundreds of people are in there. We
bring our list.
We're allowed to, if they do like they have in the past, you could submit questions in advance. They will also take live questions. No guarantee they're going to answer them, but they'll take live questions, and you can submit questions in advance. And there's just a back and forth, real chat with them. So that closes the summit this year, which is fantastic. So the deal is that in the past, you can't videotape, you can't audio tape, you can't take pictures of that event. That event is for the attendees of the Final Cut Pro Summit. This is what you're paying for. This special access to the Final Cut Pro team. Nothing that's discussed in there is supposed to leave the room. It's supposed to be, stay in the room. And it besides something simple like they've said in the past, well, we read every request and every bug report you send in. Somebody reads every one. They've said that multiple times. They don't mind something like that coming out. People mistake that as reading versus, hey, they didn't give me the thing that I wanted. That's not what they said. They said they're going to read it.
It's been read. It's been read and cataloged. What do you think the number one request for Final Cut is?
I think right now,
what's the number one feature?
I think right now it's text-based editing / auto titling, subtitling, because Resolve brought it out with 18.5 beta at NAB, Premiere had it at NAB, and now AVID has it. And now
AVID, they have a live transcription now?
They just came out with this last week. Yes.
Okay. Because they've had script sync for a long time, which was text-based editing.
Yeah. They've done something something more on top of that just last week. So that's
that's a great point. We just started using the transcriber for this project that we started here at Tomiga, and it was amazing. We transcribed about an hour and a half of interviews, and I don't know how long. We actually just got the new M2 Mac Studio.
Okay.
And that thing just screams. But transcribe the whole thing, Sony FX9 footage, and just it was what's really cool is I took the transcription out of Resolve and brought it into an AI and helped break that transcription down, come up with some ideas, and then took that and created story beats from there, and then used that and search for those story beats right back inside of Resolve, and then gave those to my editor, and he, just started searching for text and dragging it in. It's pretty amazing what you can do now.
Yeah, it is.
Pretty impressive.
It is. I edit Final Cut Pro Radio podcast, the audio podcast. I usually go in Descript now because you can edit. Well, Descript has the best because not only can you edit with text, and the timeline is below, and whatever you highlight in the text is highlighted down below. But here's what else they do. Once they do the transcriptions, they automatically place captions over top of your timeline, right?
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
So, but here's the thing that nobody else does. I can grab a word in the timeline and drag it around, and it brings the audio with it.
Ooh.
Yeah. You can edit in the timeline, like if somebody says, you can just collapse those, just grab the word
and then
grab the
just move it.
word and it's move it over and it deletes the audio. So it automatically links the captions with the audio. They're both linked together.
I think I just saw, was it Descript? I think it was Descript. They just came out with a new feature where you can, you know how, so like what you just described, right? You're grabbing text and you're
Right.
putting it together, and it's doing those actual audio edits or video edits
Yes.
along with your manipulation of text. Well, in some cases, you might put, two different takes together or whatever and create one sentence, but the end, the end piece, the tonation is different, right? How the pitch
Yes.
was, and
Yes.
so you can actually select that and tell it to regenerate, and it'll regenerate the same words, but it will do it to the tonation of the whole
Yes.
sentence and kind of marry those two together, which is impressive.
Well, not only that, but with an advanced level of Descript, you can create new words that you didn't speak and put them in.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. That's amazing.
It is
Yeah.
amazing.
I started using those AI voice generators for my scratch tracks now.
Okay.
And usually, scratch tracks, it's the editor or whoever. I usually end up doing my own scratch tracks. And it doesn't always work out, but it's pretty impressive that, that's at least more than half the time now for scratch tracks. I go and I kind of audition voices. What age? Is this
Right.
is this a grandma, or is this a young kid, or that type of thing? And it's pretty amazing how far along that's coming for scratch tracks. What do we got
So
here?
Matthew says he'd be curious to know the Final Cut Pro sales over the last 5 years. They always have it as an add-on. Well, they stopped announcing Final Cut Pro numbers at NAB 2018 was the last time, and that was was it 2018? It was 2.5 million. Now that was 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years
It's been a
ago.
while.
So we're probably up to 5 million by now.
What's a feature that if they were to come out with the next update, this is what's coming out. What's a feature that you think would be something that would turn heads, and or at least the people who are on the fence? Like there's a lot of editors who are on the fence. Like, should I stick with it or should I move on? What would be the feature that would signal to everybody that they're paying attention?
Well, according to Hollywood, it would be collaboration. Serious collaboration. Okay, but that's a small percentage of users. I think most people, they want text-based editing, auto captions, and they want a mixing board. They want audio mixing. Yeah. Those kind of things.
I would say collaboration is a big one. We use it here. I use it all the time, even when I'm not collaborating with editors. Just being able to have my laptop right here, the M1 Max, and I use Resilio Sync, and I can work at home if I feel like working at home or wherever on a project. Just close my laptop, not even have to manage. Like I got to export a project, or I got to update the project. Go to the office, work at the office. Literally, just close my laptop, go to the next computer at the office, and pick it up right where I left off. It's been really freeing in a way, especially like I'm leaving here. I want to go somewhere else, going out of town. I can just close down the app and make sure everything is sunk with Resilio Sync.
Of course.
That's got to happen first.
Yes.
But then I can be on the plane, or I can be anywhere else and logging in. It's pretty. I literally just did that. I was in South Korea for a couple of weeks.
I saw that
on vacation, and we had a job that finished. This little brand film for a nonprofit, and it needed to be colored. So I just opened the timeline that the guys were working in, added my color, and closed the app, and then they opened it. I did a reference cut out. So just that alone it's pretty powerful to use the collaboration.
Well,
I think that would be.
What do you think would be something that would bring people, perhaps stop the flood, the exodus from Final Cut Pro? What kind of things would you think would help?
I think for me it would be collaboration. I think if they did collaboration, it would be something. And I understand that the app, the structure of its code and how it works is it could could lend itself to that or not. But I think that would be something that would signal to everybody that they're definitely paying attention, because it would be great. I mean, wouldn't it be great if you could take Final Cut on the iPad and to be able to fluidly work and have the iPad accessing on the server, and then you're done with it and just go pick it up right on your. So even that in itself, even if they could figure out a way to do some sort of collaboration between Junior FCP and FCP, that could be very, very interesting in a way to work. A lot of folks, like my son, they're all, everything's touch, everything's iPad, nothing is on a laptop. So even if it's not even the full version of collaboration, it's just something that's like between the app. That would still be interesting or enough for me as well. But obviously, it'd be nice to be able to do it to work with, like, let's say I want to work with Felipe, across the pond, and we should be able to do that in Final Cut, I think.
So you think collaboration? It is one of the top ones that I see people ask about. So there's I just think that they're working on a brand new, built from the ground up version of Final Cut once again, because they did it with 10 from 7 to 10. But that code now is 12 years old.
It is, right? You're right.
Okay. So I'm sure they have a sidecar version of Final Cut Pro 11 that they're once again building from the ground up that might have all these things that maybe the version 10 can't have because of code restrictions or whatever.
That would be great.
So, but I don't think that's coming out this year. I think we're going to see 10.7, if not in October at a Mac event. We're going to see 10.7 at the Creative Summit, at least a preview. Okay, a public preview. Yeah. So we can talk about it. I don't want a preview and we can't talk about it. Nope. No talking. Well, in 2018, they showed us 10.4.4 beta, and we were allowed to talk about it.
That's right. Yeah, that was very interesting.
It came out in December, but we were allowed to talk about it in November.
I think that would be great too. I mean, they are doing events where they go out to different cities, but it'd be great to have participation back in the industry where they're, get back to reaching out like they did before. Do they still have the education stuff as well, or do they close that down?
I don't know what education's doing. I don't know. Serena Catania probably knows more than I do. She's working with that.
But yeah, it'd be great to get them to get back in the community, heavily involved. That would be nice. Well, I think that would be a good sign.
Speaking of education, so LumaFusion works on the iPad, works on the iPhone, it works on Chromebooks, and it works on Android.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
I think that's smart to work on the Chromebooks.
Well, they did that before Final Cut Junior came out on the iPad. It was a smart move on their part.
Yeah, a lot of the schools use Chromebooks. I mean, that would be a great pathway into schools, into little, film programs.
Right.
That'd be cool.
Anyway, we love the Final Cut Pro team. We just want you to do a little bit more. Not a little bit, a lot more.
Please.
We're waiting on.
Yeah.
So,
bring it.
I mean, when 10.7 comes out, if it comes out this year, I think it's going to come out within the next 60 days. If it's never going to satisfy everybody. Okay? Somebody's, people love to complain on the internet. That's what people do.
Yeah.
So I have faith. My expectations are low. I'm not going to hide that. They're very low since 2019. They've been down here. So when something comes out and it's not that big, I said, that's what I expected. That's what I expected.
Yeah.
Raise my expectations, get them up there. But we love the Final Cut Pro team, love the people on that team. We're going to be talking with them at the Creative Summit here in less than, it's actually on a Monday this year. So we go to Apple Park on Monday, November the 6th. Tuesday, November the 7th, and Wednesday, November the 8th, they have sessions all day, which I don't really go for that. I just go to the report.
And those are off-site? They're not on Apple Park, they're somewhere else?
No, those are not at Apple Park. So here's the thing. Normally, we stayed in Cupertino, where Apple Park is. This
Okay.
time we're staying 20 minutes away in Santa Clara. That's where the
Okay.
presentations are. They're in Santa Clara. And they'll bus us to Cupertino for Apple Day and bus us back. But
Okay.
when the team comes and talks to us for a Q&A, they're going to come to our place. They're
Oh,
going to
okay.
come to
Nice.
Santa Clara. That's what happened. We don't go back to Apple Park for that.
It's just that one day.
Just that, but it's all day. It's all
Yeah,
day.
maybe I
want to
should
stop
go-
and can I go to Tim Cook's office and say, "Hey, Tim, let's talk about Final Cut Pro."
Tim, we need to talk about FCP.
Yeah, we need to talk. Let me look into your couch and see if we got some change for the FCP team. Yeah.
Give us a
So I don't know what we're
give
going to
us a
do
little
all
love.
day besides we'll get a Final Cut Pro presentation. We always do from the team. They'll do,
Yeah.
especially if it's a new version. They'll have lots to show if it's a new version. And then we get the professional, 6 people on stage or back and forth. But, Luke is gone. Luke left.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he went back to Australia.
Wow.
And he was like one of the main presenters. So,
I wonder
yeah,
who's going to do it now. Huh. Interesting.
I know. He was one of the main people. So he's gone, but there's going to be a presentation. I presume it's going to be the opening of the Creative Summit. Will be at Apple Park.
Makes sense.
Maybe we'll get coffee or something. Then everybody will go into the presentation. And typically what happened after the presentation, they would divide the group up because it was too big. And we'd go to a Final Cut Pro demo room.
Okay.
Well, half of us would go to a demo room. Half of us would go get something to eat. They'd have a room with food and stuff.
Yeah.
And then after a certain period of time, we'd switch.
So that's like a group of 100 or a group of 50?
Oh, no, over 100, always over 100. Always,
Okay.
I mean, the total. The in-person
total,
Final Cut Pro Summits were typically up to 150 people.
Okay.
But I think this year it's going to be 200 because it's only $299.
Yeah.
So,
Man. Okay. Maybe we should look at some hotels. It might be worth it just to go for that first day.
well, there you go.
And
There you go. You don't have any friends in Santa Clara or Cupertino? San Jose? That's only about 8 miles away.
No, I don't think I have any friends who live there. I have some friends who live in San Francisco, but not there.
Yeah.
Do you know if Mr. Olson's gonna go?
I don't know.
Bradley?
I don't know. Haven't talked to him for a while.
Gotta ping him. See how he's doing.
But a lot of our normal
okay.
people are coming. Chris Hawking's coming from Australia, he said.
Chris is coming?
Yes, this is his first one.
Oh man, I have to go now. Chris is going.
Ian Anderson from Australia is coming. Lee said he's not. Herbert said he's not coming this time.
He's not coming? Okay.
Yeah, he said
Yeah.
work conflicts and stuff. And of course, Serena's Catania's going to be there. Phil Hodgetts and Gregory Clark are going to be there. Steve Martin, Mark Spencer are going to be there, of course.
Yeah.
And
that'd be good.
the friend I've met at NAB last couple of times, the Final Cut Bro, Dylan Bates.
Okay.
you know him?
Yeah, I've seen his. I don't
He's
know
gonna
if I've
be
seen
there.
his.
He's going to be
Nice.
there this time. So,
Very nice.
yeah.
Man. All right. Maybe I should. Chris. Yeah, I have to see Chris. I saw him once at NAB like many moons ago.
Yeah, I videotaped
He was fun to
us.
hang out with.
Remember?
Okay.
The three of us? I got that little
It's
clip
just
of you and
such
me
a
and
blur.
him. Yeah, you were at the Black
Was that at the
Magic booth in
LumaFusion?
those days.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. I remember that. Yeah, that was so weird going to NAB this year, and not being at the booth,
Yeah,
but it was good.
it was good. It was good. The reason I go to NAB is because I'm looking for Final Cut Pro stuff. Well, there was nothing there this year. I mean, just some Final Cut Pro enthusiasts, but there was no Apple presence. None of the vendors were doing Final Cut Pro. LumaFusion, who
quiet.
used to do they did the Super Meet. The Super Meet didn't happen this year,
I know.
So-
yeah,
but I still had a good
Yeah.
time. I had a good time.
I had a good time. I saw Sam over at OWC. That was really nice.
Yes, I saw
To
Sam
catch
too.
up with him.
Yep.
That was good. That was good. Actually, I have a call with them after this God, they got to work on my jellyfish. Get it updated.
Yeah. That's with
Yeah.
OWC now, so that's an interesting development. I have one of their Flex 8s that I really
Okay.
like. I really
Huh.
like it. It's 64 terabytes raw. It's 56 terabytes as a RAID 5. It's
Oh,
been
really?
rock
Okay.
solid to me. Yeah, rock solid for me for a year and a half now.
The software RAID?
Yes, I really like it. I
Okay.
was like, yeah, but
Yeah. I was
as
curious about that. I wasn't sure if it was, so you hear all the different
yeah,
stable IOs.
exactly. You hear all kinds of stuff. It's been fine with me. It's been
Okay.
fine. Now here's the other thing. So Sonoma's coming out September, October sometime.
Yeah.
At this point, so I have the OWC RAID 5, 56 terabytes, and I have two 12 terabyte RAID 5, 16 terabytes raw, but 12
Oh,
terabyte,
wow.
configured as RAID 5. It's one of them is the Promise, and one of them is the G-Tech, and they're both working in the current Mac OS.
Really?
Yes. So I will keep this
Yes.
MacBook Pro. I'll keep a version of this Mac OS
Yeah.
because those two RAIDs, I can still reach them with the setup
Right.
I have now.
Oh,
Even if I get a
nice.
new MacBook Pro, which I probably will. I'll probably get the M3. But, this one's working so well. It's the M1 Max. It's loaded, and it's just doing a great.
Yeah. Same thing here. I'm amazed at it. I love just cutting in Resolve on it. But it's great. I have the Envoy, the SSD from OWC, and it's an 8 terabyte SSD, and it screams super fast.
Is that the
There's a
one
lot you
with
can
like
do.
4 blades? Or is it a
No.
single?
It's a single
Okay.
one, and it comes with a little mount, so you can just slide it on the back of your resting on the back of your monitor and
Okay.
connect it. It's a Thunderbolt 3, but it's great, fast, clean, simple, really good
And I
little.
know you
Uh,
back up before you start editing because people have one
yes.
SSD and they say, "Oh, my SSD's full. What do I do?" Oh, please tell me you have a backup of your media.
Oh yeah, no. It's first we project manage everything on the Jellyfish. So we have a whole system, a whole workflow, and how we structure that, and where it goes. And the Jellyfish is partitioned into three different partitions: one for our camera negatives and working projects, and then one for resources, master files, and stock footage. And so we project manage everything at the office on the Jellyfish first, and then we sync from there out to like the SSD. So that's a copy in itself. And then we
Right.
do a backup of the Jellyfish um, as well once a week. But now I'm actually looking at getting some LTO tapes. So that's one of my next things I'm going to talk with the good folks at Hedge and at OWC is we have a ton of data that we need to back up and archive. So I'll be calling you guys soon. But but yeah, I got about like at least 80 terabytes I need to archive
Yeah, that's a
and
good chunk.
pass off back to the client. You take it.
I just bought. Normally, I back up my RAIDs with. I get two 8 terabyte USB 3 drives, and I make
Okay.
2 copies, test them, then I'll delete it from the RAID.
Right.
I was on Amazon the other day looking at the price of the 8 terabytes, and they had 16 terabytes for $220. It was a flash sale. Normally they
Really?
were $269, and $279, and they were $60 off. I got 2 of them, so I'm now backing up 16 terabytes. But 2 copies. I don't just do 1 copy.
Yeah, you need to have 2 copies.
Yeah,
Always
at
gotta have two
least.
copies.
So I
Yeah.
also had a film debut at a local movie theater in
Oh,
Washington
really?
D.C. Yeah, I had it.
What'd you have?
It's a documentary I've been working on for a couple years about a local band, a DC band that should have made it, never made it, but they were real popular. They were called
Nice.
Raz. So it's called Raz the documentary. But so we had there's AFI Theater in Silver Spring, Maryland, where I grew up. You know,
Okay.
this is peculiar.
Very cool.
I mean, it was peculiar to go in there because I went there when I was a kid. And we had to film there. It was like a sellout crowd. So we're going to come back and do a second showing of that. So that's fun.
Nice.
But anyway, that's like 8 or 9 terabytes of data. I've got it backed up all over the place.
Good for
Well,
you. Yes.
the other thing is this, Tony. It's probably on Final Cut Pro. It might be 10.6.6, but it might be 10.6.5. I can't remember. I am not updating. I am not updating Final Cut Pro until I get done with that project. I don't want any problems, you know. All of a sudden, you created a problem by updating to. I'm at 10.6.6 right now. I have to see what version of Final Cut I had when I did that.
I haven't even cracked open Final Cut in a long time, actually. It's been a while.
That's okay. I have.
It's probably been a minute.
I've been using Resolve.
Do you zip the current version of Final Cut and then update?
I do. Usually, I have a folder. It's Legacy Final Cut Pro, and I'll just make a copy and put it in that folder.
Okay.
So just copy it over. I've made zip copies as well. I mean, I have. Listen. Speaking of Chris Hawking, he asked me if I had Final Cut Pro 10.0 one time. Oh, I did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how far back versions that I have. Do I have 100% of every version? No, I have probably about 80% or 90%. There's been a few that I skip, but I don't skip them anymore.
You just do every single one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't skip them anymore. Yeah.
I just need to probably update my Final Cut. It's been a minute since I've opened it.
Well, plus 10.7 is probably coming out. I mean, people got mad. I did an article about the countdown to Final Cut Pro 10.7. Yeah, well, it's a countdown, isn't it? I mean, we think it's going to.
Oh yeah,
it's not going to stay at 10.6.8.
No, it needs to.
And the time is right. It's been 2 years since 10.6. You got the Creative Summit. You got possibly a Mac event. So I said, look,
it should happen. It needs to happen.
And some people got, some people, as they do, well, they just said things like, he's not reporting any news. I didn't say I was reporting news. This is editorial. This is what I think.
Countdown time.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I said, let's revisit this article when 10.7 comes out and see if I was correct.
There you go.
That's what I like to say.
Get them on the show.
Anyway, thumbs up to the Final Cut Pro team. I'm glad you're doing well. Any special Texas barbecue going on?
I need to. I haven't done it. This summer we were in South Korea for like almost 4 weeks. So we had amazing Korean barbecue. So I need to start a fire and I need to smoke something. And I think it's going to be some pork ribs is what I'm going to smoke next.
Good.
But it's been a long time.
And I'm glad you weren't at Burning Man. I'm glad you weren't at Burning Man.
No, we do burning different here in Texas.
There you go.
We burn wood and smoke meat.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll send you some pics.
Sounds good. So, Tony, I hope you can make it to the summit. If you come to the summit, tell them that I convinced you to come.
I'm only here because of Richard. That's it.
There you go.
Guys, I'm here because of Richard. And that was awesome. Yeah, I'm you getting me excited about at least going for the first day. So maybe I agree. I should look into it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Very good.
Awesome.
Anything else in closing?
No. Fingers crossed for Final Cut. If you haven't looked at Resolve, you should go check out Resolve. It's doing amazing stuff.
It is amazing.
But yeah, look at all the NLEs. Actually, if you're a freelancer for sure, it's the way to go. Absolutely. But thank you. I appreciate you reaching out, man. It's good. It's been a while since I've talked to you. I saw. Where did I see something on Twitter or somewhere? I said I got to go back and get Tony back on. Yeah, no, this is good. This is good. We need to do these things. Keep in touch with everybody. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Talk to you later, Tony. Hopefully you come to the summit. I'll see you then if you do. All right. Talk to you guys soon. Talk to you soon.